Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Justin Wolf from Wolf Customs, and because of what I do for a living, I get asked certain questions quite frequently. And one of those particular questions is, which is better, Kydex or leather? Now, there's two types of people that ask me this question. There are those that legitimately want to know if there is one that is superior over the other, and they want to know for educational purposes. And then you've got the person that will ask me this question because they're trolling. Basically, there's somebody that already has a thought in their head, and they want to find out what my opinion is because they're hoping that I will say one thing so they can try to argue with me. So let's address the person that wants to know from an educational standpoint first, because those are the people that I truly care about. So which is better, Kydex or leather? This is a question, honestly, that only you can answer. Because for me, I don't really truly feel that one is better than the other. I believe that each has perks and disadvantages. Prime example is right now on my hip I have a leather sheath. This is a sheath that I carry every single day of my life in all leather. If you guys have been paying attention to my channel for any amount of time, you have seen me out in sunny weather like it is now, which it's very hot, 100 plus degrees. You have seen me out when it is 0 degrees, snowing. And you've also seen me out when it's torrential downpours. I have had this sheath in all those conditions. And this sheath is still going strong. In fact, this particular sheath, I can still take my knife out and put it in, and it actually still kind of really, not necessarily snaps into position like Kydex, but pretty dang close. I'm actually going to show you a clip of that right now. So not too bad for being used in all elements for a good period of time. It's a matter of not over-treating your leather sheath. That's the biggest problem that I see with people with leather, is they don't know how to adequately treat their leather. They over-treat it. And that's just another video altogether, which I plan on doing. But that leather sheath, would I recommend that leather sheath in an extreme wet conditions? Absolutely not. I've used that leather sheath to cross rivers and everything else. And after crossing a river, it's obviously going to soak up all the water and become a sponge. That's obviously not what we want. Just recently, I got back from a 40-mile kayak trip. And before I went on that trip, I knew that it was going to be wet. I just didn't know how wet it was going to be. Well, I took with me a knife system that I have coined the wet weather knife system. Basically is what this is. It's a Kydex sheath with that holds a stainless steel blade and has a leather back. So it has all the function of Kydex, but has the comfort of leather, but has the water resistance of stainless steel. Well, I'm glad that I took this with me, because even when I wasn't flipping out of my kayak and swimming down the river instead of kayaking, it was non-stop rain. So we was wet literally from the time we launched until the time we pulled the boats out of the water. And I'm going to show you a picture of my that knife system. And I'm also going to show you a picture of another gentleman that was there with me, his knife system, because he brought a leather sheath with a carbon steel blade. And it didn't fare too well. So take a look at these pics. So obviously you can see that the wet weather knife system did great, whereas the leather and carbon blade, not so much. He had to spend several hours cleaning that blade up and everything. So that's the downfall of leather, is water. And by water, I mean extreme water. A little bit of rain, a little bit of, even if it's a torrential downpour, it should not affect your sheath. Because if you're out in a torrential downpour and you don't have rain gear covering up all that stuff, well, you're kind of failing at that point anyway. And that's not necessarily the sheath's fault, that's kind of your fault. But when you submerge it, that's the downfall right there. So, what about Kydex? Kydex has amazing function properties. Obviously, you can take damn near every shape of knife and form Kydex around it, and it works very well. Of course, with leather, this is also true, but it depends on the shape and style of the knife. A lot of knives, I can shape leather and make them click into place just like they were Kydex, but not all. But what's the downfalls to Kydex? Well, a lot of people will tell you that Kydex in the wintertime is a problem because if moisture gets in it and it stays out in extreme cold, your blade will freeze and stick in the sheath, and it's hard to get out. Now, this is something that I personally have never experienced, but it doesn't get that cold where I live. I think, on average, our winters are about 10 degrees at night, and then, anywhere between 15 to 25 during the day. So, and that's Fahrenheit. So it's not extremely cold, but cold enough. But I've never had one of my knives freeze in the sheath to the point to where I couldn't get it out. I've had them stick a little bit, but nothing extreme. But some of the guys that live in Alaska or Minnesota, places like that where it gets extremely cold, they are the ones that have these problems. Now, is where I have problems with Kydex is right now. Right now, it's very hot. It's in the hundreds, and in Kansas, it's not uncommon for it to be 110 degrees Fahrenheit during our hottest parts of our summer. So if you leave a Kydex sheath, let's say in a vehicle, and that sun's beaming through here, it gets very hot, and that Kydex can and will warp. Just ask my wife. She knows that firsthand. So that's a downfall. Now, if I did the same with leather, in extreme cold weather situations, I get it wet, I put it in there. Can it freeze and stick inside there? I'm sure it probably can. Again, I've never had it happen, but I'm sure that it could. Now, if I get it in a hot car, it's not going to affect it at all. It'd be just fine. So when it comes to which is better, only you can decide that. Ask yourself, what is the situation you're getting ready to get into, and adjust accordingly. There's nothing wrong with using both. I use both. I love both. I work with both. Now, as far as those that ask me this question to try to troll me, you have people that get set in their own mind and they don't ever want to admit that they might be wrong or expand their horizons and think a little bit differently. And basically, is what's happening is they develop what's called the team mentality. And what do I mean by the team mentality? is what I mean by that is take the people like the Ford versus Chevy guys, or people that, what's the best knife, a small knife or a large knife? A tomahawk versus an axe. These discussions will turn grown men into children and they will act absolutely ridiculous. And it's because they want to be right all the time. They're on that team. I'm team small knife. I'm team axe. I'm team Chevy. Whatever it may be. And we're all guilty of that from time to time. For me, every football season I have aneurysms because, well, I've been a Dallas Cowboy fan since I was 4 years old, and you guys can obviously understand my frustrations there. So for me, I despise the Washington Redskins or the New York Giants because they're rivals, which is actually quite silly because why would I let something so trivial that does not affect my life dictate how I feel? I shouldn't be that way, and it's something that I certainly am going to work on. And I challenge each and every one of you to do the same. I don't have a mindset to where I'm closed-minded. I keep my mind open because I always want it to expand and I always want it to adapt and, everything along those lines. I can have my mind changed and there's nothing wrong with that. I can go to bed thinking one thing, wake up and think something completely different because someone posts something, or I wake up to a PM and it simply makes me think. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I challenge everybody to actually do that, See if someone can change your mind just because you open your mind and listen to them. Maybe they'll change it, maybe they won't. I don't know. It's like I got into a discussion the other day about gun control. And or someone thinking that guns are evil. I do not feel that way. I do not at all. I believe it's the person that's behind the trigger. But there are those that legitimately think guns are actually evil. And I will approach these situations with an open mind. I will tell these people, convince me, change my mind, make me see things your way. And I will let them give me their best spiel. And I'm not going to get mad at this person. I'm not going to be arrogant or anything else. I'm going to listen to this person's argument with an open mind. And I'm going to tell them either A, why I can agree with them, or B, why I don't. And if they can have an open-minded discussion like I'm trying to have, then it's a discussion to be had. But if they're closed-minded, I'll see that right away, and then at that point it's discussion's over, because obviously you're a silly person and you're not going to listen to anything I have to say anyway, so there's no point in me talking to you. And that's exactly how I approach the people that try to troll me with these questions. I will engage in conversation if I see that you're somebody that has an open mind and will actually have a discussion with me. But if I see that you're closed-minded, then I know that you're a silly person and I don't even want to waste my time with you. Make sense? So those are the two types of people that ask me those questions. Those that legitimately want to know, and those that just simply want to try to troll me to get a rise. So I hope this video has actually helped somebody that's wanting to legitimately know. And I hope this video has helped those that are closed-minded just to simply open their minds a little bit. Try to have educational debates. Simple as that. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one.